podcast of and for the people, the greatest football podcast on earth, Realfrancamente. My name is Franca. I'm your host. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Are you ready to buy us your football content? Let's go. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Realfrancamente. We're doing it. The consistency of this podcast is sometimes what keeps me going in life. I'm kind of going through it emotionally, but it's fine. We'll be good. And so this podcast is what's, I was like, I have to record. And here we are. So today may be a little bit of a sad girl episode. It'll be good. I don't really even have a plan for this episode, to be honest. There's some current event stuff to talk about. And I have a feeling that we're going to go and end on a note of mentioning, what's going on in the world. And it's really interesting to be in a space that is so unapologetically just ourselves, and have that freedom because people are losing their jobs. I wore a couple episodes ago, I wore my Palestine support roots, Oakland roots, Palestine, like fan kit. It was like a supporters group did it. And I should have worn it today, but I don't want to repeat yet. I'm like torn between like being topical and like not wanting to repeat. Speaking of kits, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, go check out the YouTube clips or whatever. I'm wearing a Portland kit, an MLS kit, a non-Red Bulls kit. I have a kit closet. This is one of my favorite kits because it's so it's perfect for athleisure. It's like my whole vibe, the colors, like everything's perfect. Portland Timbers, and it's like rose, like a blush pink with the burgundy and the roses. I love kits so much. Portland, I've always said, is kind of like my second team if I were to have one, because of Valeri, but also just because like I'm fascinated by Portland culture. In terms of football, like the Pacific Northwest, really, I think if I could do this, I would love to do like a look at Luna. She's been featured in all the episodes lately. I would love to do a research project that looks at Pacific Northwest football culture, because it's very unique in the United States in terms of it being organically like super supported in Seattle and in Portland, and it's one of the few places where it's not immigrant based, like, or it's not for reasons, like that are related to like immigration. It's literally just United Stations that love the sport. So it's really interesting to me. So I really like a bucket list for me, a bucket list thing to do is to see that, that game, preferably in Portland, Seattle, but we'll see how that goes. So that's my kit for the day. What is going on? Okay, so we have to start by talking about Brazil and Uruguay. Okay, Uruguay. Okay, let's talk about Bielsa. Let's talk about Bielsa supremacy, which is so real. And like, there's haters, and it's hilarious because some of those haters are closer to me than I'd like to admit. And I'm thinking, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm thinking of a potential content idea for sooner than later. Bielsa's got his haters, and I'll never understand it, because it's a dream come true that Bielsa, we did dedicated episodes to this, right? Dream come true that Bielsa's here. It's just so good, and I'm so happy. And like, of course it didn't go perfect. Like if anyone expected him to win every single game, it would have been lovely, but like, come on, realistically, he's like getting used to it. But like, let's talk about Uruguay beating Brazil for the first time in over 20 years. I think it was 22 years, okay, in qualifiers. That day was, none of us expected, because Uruguay usually qualifies. It's more rare that they don't qualify than that they do, because, ultimately, math works out, even if they have to go to playoffs, like history, karma, football gods, whatever it is, like Uruguay gets in, right? But we know our place, and we know that it's been a long time since Uruguay's been really good. And so generally we're just used to losing to Brazil. You even like have people that do the math before qualifiers start of like, okay, those games are already lost, because if there's one thing Uruguayans are, it is pessimistic. And I'm starting to realize just how much by seeing people in my own circles and the way they're reacting to this whole Bielsa thing. But again, I don't want to spoil it. But it's so good. And they beat Brazil. They beat Brazil. First time in like 22 years. It's so like awesome to see just fresh perspective, like it's a different team. It's a contrary to what some folks may say. Okay. It's a different team. It's a whole different energy. There was that whole drama with Suarez and Cavani. And like, I think no one can take anything away from Bielsa for making the correct decision there, because we're seeing what he's getting out of these players, right? These young players. He is just getting the most out of them. And it's so great. It's so great to see, like, his press conferences, everything about Bielsa is just it's just chef's kiss. It's so good. I'm so happy to have him. Yeah, it's great. It's great. And it's early in qualify. I don't ever really worry that much about qualifiers, like especially early on, again, because Uruguay and Argentina. I mean, maybe I'm spoiled, but Uruguay and Argentina always usually make it. And like Argentina's killing it. Obviously, I think Argentina's gonna be on top of the world for a while. It's been now like I feel like the World Cup catapulted them into this space where they're just like not gonna lose. And so they're doing their thing, which is awesome to see. And I think Messi's so much happier now in Miami. I didn't read it. I saw an article posted in the New York Times about Messi and the pink kit. And I think one of the things that we can say about Messi, even though we've talked at length before about how people are delusional, and like people are also like really US centric around this whole Messi thing. And there's just so much nuance. But one of the things that we can say for sure is that the mainstream mentions of football since he's come are unprecedented. I have never seen anything like this. This is a regular New York Times article about Messi and the pink kit. And like, when was the last time there was a New York Times article about MLS at all? Right. So that's kind of cool to see. And especially for the haters who are like, oh, everyone cares so much about Messi. I'll never understand the hypocrisy of MLS fans, like truly. But that's where we're at. Speaking of MLS too, this is going to be an ADHD episode. Speaking of MLS too, the Red Bulls clinched a playoff spot in the last second. And I rolled my eyes. I need like to be re-engaged. I'm so like disillusioned with so much about football and like just life and like the world, that I'm just like I'm not watching as much. And I need to get like reinvigorated. But the Red Bulls clinched that spot in the last second. And it's ridiculous. People are celebrating because I guess it's like 14 years in a row or something like that the Red Bulls have, or like 14 playoffs in a row, like 14 there's some sort of statistic which I think is absolutely absurd. It's absolutely absurd and embarrassing that literally to be the team that like makes it to the playoffs the most times and then like you've never won the fucking cup. Like, are you not embarrassed? I mean, for me, let's talk about this because actually we haven't talked topical in a couple episodes. Okay, there was a tweet going around and I just had to laugh because I tweeted about this very thing a couple years ago, and I had douchebags and haters and trolls come for me for days after and the difference is that this was tweeted by a white man. Okay. And now when I tweeted it, it was like, oh my God, like stupid and all that stuff. Like the real winner of MLS, like championship is the Supporters Shield winner. Okay, like that, I've always said that it's the winner on points. That is how football works in the rest of the world, and that's it. I'm not an idiot. I understand the MLS Cup exists. I just don't care about it. And that's not because the Red Bulls have never won it. Like, I just literally don't care. I think playoffs are stupid. Playoffs are United States based, and it doesn't make any sense to have them. It should be based on points. So, like, my champion is always the Supporter Shield winner. And I tweeted about this, and then now there's like this viral tweet that went around that people are like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, oh, what's the difference? What is the difference, class? Like, don't all jump at once. So misogyny in football. Hello. But I just was not happy. I wasn't happy like when the Red Bulls, because it's like, all right, what's like they're gonna fizzle out, like people get their hopes up, like what the fuck is anything? But I think that has more to do with my existential crisis than the Red Bulls, maybe. But I don't know. Like I haven't been excited about the Red Bulls for a long time. I hate them. I hate everything about Red Bulls fan base. Most United Station fan bases are actually terrible. So, but shouts to my lovely followers and listeners whom I love so much. It's just been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. And like, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. I haven't even talked about this yet. This is how long ago we haven't done an episode based on current events. The City and Arsenal game, which was a couple weeks ago now. I watched it at a bar, and it was such a great, like, last minute win for Arsenal. And like Pep was so mad, and it makes me so happy when like stuff like that happens. Almost like, oh my God, it's like, okay, obviously like the son outgrew the father, right? We'll bring the meme back. The Arteta and Pep meme. But like it's so good. It's so good. That was such a good, like, last minute, like, satisfying win for Arsenal. And then this past week, United won in a pretty satisfying way as well. They came back to beat Sheffield, and Arsenal came back to tie, which I, in the last second I was like kind of hoping for a miracle. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure, in terms of transformation, in terms of just like lifestyle, life changes for me. Like personally, I'm going through a lot. And so I'm not into it. Like, I need y'all. I have some ideas that I think I'm going to start to maybe put out there. I kind of put out a poll. A couple folks have been suggesting things. My editor, not editor. Why did I say editor? My producer extraordinaire and bestie and designer and everything, life coach, has suggested some stuff that I think I am going to do, but it's like weird, right? So like one suggestion is to do watch-alongs, like live watch-alongs. And I'm like, or like on Twitch or like something. And I'm like, oh man, this newfangled stuff for the kids. But like, are people going to watch me watch a game? Like, is that a thing? And then, someone compared it to like esports, like people watch people play video games. And like, I guess that's true. So we might do watch-alongs. We might do some more live stuff. I made a TikTok account. Follow us if you haven't, to like maybe do some TikTok content. And I also am considering doing some live episode recordings at like different spots, like different like cool football spots like around. So maybe we'll do some stuff like that to get back into that passionate place. I'm obviously still as passionate as I ever was about topics and content. I just need to get back to that place where I was like, I was like, it was obsessive, right? Like in terms of watching every single game, every single day. And now, sometimes I don't have a way to watch because I'm like kind of like living in many places. I'm in many different spaces. And like, sometimes like I don't have the access to watch. So, and some of it's that, and some of it's just like other stuff. Like, I don't know, like I'm going through it. Anyway, what else? What else? Yeah, current event stuff. I don't know. It's wild. It's a wild time to kind of exist because the world is in shambles too. So it's like everything we do is like it's a facade. It feels like when the world is in shambles, like it kind of feels weird to just go on as as before or whatever. And then it's like we're like going through these motions, and there's certain things you have to do. You have to go to work, you have to like do whatever. And then there's other things that where you're like, how can I do this? And like people are dying, you know what I mean? And so I don't know. I think that's also like affecting me greatly, just as an empath and as a person that cares about the world. But anyway, on that note, let's go to break. And let's get right into talking about Palestine right after.
Hey, make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And help us out by leaving a rating and review, and remember to share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow Franca on Twitter and Instagram at realfrancamente for the latest news. And lastly, please visit realfrancamente.com for bonus content, including articles, photos, and for more information about the podcast.
Hello, we're back. And Luna is literally a part of this segment. She was like staring right into the camera. That's funny. So it's 2023 and we are actively watching an actual genocide happen in Palestine, right? I mean, if there was ever a doubt, I've worn that Palestine kit, the Palestine support kit again. If there was ever a doubt that I was pro-Palestine, like, please, I'm not sure why that would be in terms of all of my philosophies on life, but like, let's be very clear. I realize I didn't say this like blatantly, but like obviously it's Palestine until they're free. What's going on is a literal genocide. It is an ethnic cleansing. What's going on is colonization. What's going on is, like there's so many folks who pretend to be on the left and they talk about, indigeneity. They might have like a land acknowledgement in their stuff and they talk about like decolonization or whatever. Decolonization is not a fucking metaphor. All right. Decolonization is not a metaphor. What we're witnessing right now, if you claim to be about decolonization and pro-indigenous rights, guess what? Palestinians are indigenous to that land. And that's the reality of it. And what's going on is an ethnic cleansing and a genocide. And it is fathomable that so many people fall for Zionist propaganda. Now, let me get ahead of this too and say that Zionism is white supremacy and it's comparable to Nazism. Okay. That is Zionism. And folks will come and say, oh, well, Israel, blah, blah, whatever. Like, no, calling people anti-Semites. You know what is anti-Semitic is equating Israel with Jewish people, because there's so many Jewish people that are literally getting arrested, that are losing their jobs for speaking out in support of Palestine. Like, Judaism is not Zionism, and it is literally anti-Semitic to make that distinction. Okay. One of the best quotes of all time that I use in a lot of spaces is by Audre Lorde, one of my favorite thinkers. And this is paraphrased because I don't have this prepared and I didn't look it up. But I've used it recently in classes. Okay. Basically what she says is, and it's true, the US is on the wrong side of every single liberation struggle on earth. And if the US is on the side of Israel, you bet that is the genocidal side, because the US consistently since its inception has not only been on the side of terrorism, but been the terrorists. Okay. The CIA, like all the CIA backed dictatorships, like everything they've done. So it's consistent with imperialism for the US to be not only siding with Israel, but sending money. We are literally complicit in ethnic cleansing in Palestine. All of us are, because our tax dollars are going to it. Right. And on top of that, we claim, and bigots love to claim this, and hypocrites love to claim this, and liberals even love to claim this, like it's a free country. It's a free country. Is it a free country? Because people are losing their jobs for simply having an opinion that is correct, by the way, on Palestine. People are losing their jobs. It's happening everywhere. I'm lucky enough to work somewhere now where they're like really, really open and there's lots of discussions around this and, you know, lots of pro-Palestine people, but it, excuse me, it is absolutely, it feels like gaslighting. If you've ever been gaslit by a man, it feels like gaslighting, but to like the nth degree. It feels like we're living in the twilight zone. Like, how can you look at those images and those videos of literal dead babies and feel nothing and side with the genocidal occupier settler that is Israel? I have privilege in many ways. I have white privilege. I have English speaking privilege. I have a lot of privileges, right, in society. And I will never shut my mouth when it comes to social justice. And I will always point out hypocrisy. And we're going to be consistent on this podcast. So if you thought that we were anti-imperialist, but would not side with the literal indigenous people in this conflict against the genocidal maniacs, I'm not sure where you were. I'm not sure where you've been. Okay. Palestine is the litmus test for leftists. People can call themselves leftists all day. Show me your support for Palestine. Otherwise, you ain't shit. Okay. I saw a great meme, a great quote tweet of a meme that I also used in class this week. And the meme said some bullshit like, oh, how can I care about, you know, what's going on in the Middle East when my rent is $3,000 and I need 6 jobs to live or something like that. And the quote tweet, and like that's a meme that's going around, like people who are idiots, right? And then the quote tweet was, let's not pretend these things aren't connected, something like that. It was like, if you actually took the time to realize that the reason our rent is so high and the reason we're so underpaid is because of what's going on, because of where the money is going that could be going to helping all of us, okay, on this land that is also stolen. But at least we might have healthcare or food or housing, okay, guaranteed. No, we have none of that. And instead of seeing that systemic connection to imperialism, people are out here acting like, oh, no, I can't worry about that because of this. And that's so selfish. And that's that toxic individualism that is bred by the unfettered capitalism that we are living with and under in this fucking hellhole of a country that we live in. So I think I'm tired. I think that is like really affecting me more so than I would like care to admit. And I've been just in awe of how many people who are acquaintances, because I don't really have that many friends. Friends, you know, the word friend is like really, really deep and important. And so I have a good number of really true, like good friends who see me, who value me, right? But I have a lot of acquaintances, and how many of my acquaintances, especially on Facebook, because Twitter's like my safe space. I love Twitter. Like Twitter's like I love Twitter. I'll die. Like I will go down with that ship. Like you will have to pry it from my cold dead hands. I understand, you know, all the bullshit that with X and everything, but like it's one of those things. It's one of those things. We're all complicit in bullshit anyway. Like that's let me be, you know, let me have my one thing. So on Twitter, it's like my safe space, but like Facebook and like even Instagram, I've had to unfollow and like unfriend so many people for their bullshit defend of this genocidal bullshit. I just can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. And even if there weren't, it doesn't matter because it's my podcast and I can do whatever the fuck I want. But there is a connection to football in that, first of all, politics and football have always been related. Okay. This is not a new thing. And we have had obviously connections with Palestine in terms of kids and things like that. There's teams called Palestine, Palestina, you know, Latin America and all these places. But also ever since this started, we have seen support for one of the things that's keeping me going is seeing how many fan bases, and most recently today it was Celtic. And they had they filled their stadium with Palestine flags. Celtic have always been about it. This is the second time we're talking about them in recent episodes. Or is it Celtic? Oh my gosh, I don't know. And so like you have teams that are traditionally historically, about it, but then even teams like Liverpool, which I get that Liverpool fans think that they've always been historically about it, but they're a mainstream big corporation team. Ultimately, hate to break it to y'all, it's true, but they had pro-Palestine manifestations at their last game. So it because worldwide, just like with everything else, in the US we're the most fascist, right? Because worldwide, people actually have more freedom of speech than in the US. Although that doesn't mean they're not censored there, but at least, there's a little bit more like willingness of people to put themselves out there, I feel like, as a whole, than in the US. Like, we see so much support for Palestine. MLS immediately put out a statement that was like, which backfired on them tremendously, which the statement said like, oh, no international flags to be brought in. Like no like country flags, I think it said. I don't remember if it said country or international. It's like someone tweeted it immediately like, so no Star Spangled Banner then, I assume, right? Like, because that means you can't have US flags either. You cannot have it both fucking ways. You can't have it both ways. I can't stand it. I can't stand the hypocrisy. I can't stand any of it. So we've seen manifestations in football. We've seen, football players, like, they have to like be careful, but and like just figures, Pep's daughter, Maria, like she's really, and this is why I have so much patience for Pep, because Pep sold out. 100% he sold out, but even under like the like the way that he has to work under this this corporation team, which is Manchester City, he still does push the envelope a little bit more than I think someone else would. But like, you can tell he raised a good one in his daughter, and she was at a Palestine march and rally, and like that's awesome to see, like so much support worldwide that like it keeps us going. I think social media can be awful in many ways, but I think sometimes it can be really great. And it's times like these when we can see that we are not alone, right? Because it can feel really lonely to be on the right side of history. I know, because this has been my entire life, and like that's not it is what it is. It's actually really lonely. It's really lonely a lot of the times to stand by your values, when it would be so much easier to just say fuck it, right? I really wish, I really envy sometimes people who are ignorant. I see ignorant people all the time, and they're like so happy. And I'm like, I wish that was me. Like, not a worry in the world, not a thought behind those eyes. There's that that TikTok sound that's like used a lot for dogs. That's like, your brain is really smooth, not a single wrinkle, right? And you usually see like a goofy dog, like literally like me to humans. But like, I also am a little bit envious that there's people that can just live their life as if nothing was fucking crumbling around us. And I feel like being so like, empathetic, so like living my values, like caring about social justice, caring about other humans, is actually detrimental to my mental health. So we need to unpack that. But sticking together, finding each other on social media, making human connections is always going to be worth it. Spending time with people you love, taking care of yourself. It's not a fun time to be alive right now. I'll say it is not a fun time to be alive right now. And all we have is each other. So thank you so much to all of y'all that make up my community. I love y'all. And by the next one, I'll be happier. We'll see you then. And that was another episode of Realfrancamente. Thank you so much for listening. I'm obsessed with y'all. Literally, please share with your like-minded friends, especially now we need each other. Follow us on socials at realfrancamente. Leave likes, comments. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Leave comments there. Leave ratings and reviews, but only if you love us. Check out our website for more content, www.realfrancamente.com. And we'll catch you on the next one. As always, bias your football content.